what what we've seen in Baltimore is what's probably going on in a lot of places across the country. And here's the thing. I understand that there are protesters that believe that the police need to be questioned, need to be examined for what they do. And yes, what's happening in our society is that our police are not being held accountable for the actions they've caused. And yes, that is injustice. That is absolutely injustice. But I think we need to be clear about how we need to approach this. And I think that the way we need to approach this is not through burning down businesses and throwing rocks and bricks into cars. And I know a lot of people who would watch this and say that you're wrong would actually do that and think that that's the right way to handle it, but all you're doing is causing more problems than, than need to be happening. And now a lot of people will actually say that it's also the media's fault for not covering other events, not just the riots and things of that nature. And that's fine. I think that as much as it is on the media to cover more than just, the riots and the looting and whatnot, they need to cover what's really going on. And it's also up to you, the people, to actually get active. We live in such a wonderful time where social media and, you know, using a phone can easily get you attention. You never know. And I think that if you're tired of seeing what's going on in the way that the media covers it, be it CNN or MSNBC or Fox or CBS or ABC or Al Jazeera America or BBC World News or any other news outlet, let them know. A lot of people will say, well, what I ask them to do will not change what they actually do, and that's wrong, because if you actually talk to them, if you get enough people behind you and support you and help you out in the effort to get better coverage that needs to happen, coverage that people need to talk about, you never know. Like, you'll actually get somewhere. You're tired of seeing the coverage? Then do something about it. Instead of rioting and looting and throwing, throwing bricks into cars and burning down buildings, that does nothing. That does nothing. It just promotes an even worse stereotype of when someone is injusticed, we're going to go out and blow the place up. And I know that's not the sentiment of everybody. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's how every single person in Baltimore feels. Yes, they feel like there's injustice going on. They feel like in a city that has had so much economic instability, where education has not proven to be any better than you know any better than an inner city school where finding a job usually means part-time at McDonald's for the rest of your life. A city, cities like Baltimore deal with unrest, deal with inequality, deal with racism, deal with all types of stuff. So there's a few things. There are a few factors in here. Is there racism in this country? Yeah, duh. There's been racism in this country since the Pilgrims landed, in on these lands back in the 1600s. It's been racism for the past 4 centuries. Seriously. Is it wrong for the media to call some of the rioters thugs or call them, looters and, violent vandals or whatever? Yes and no. I'm sorry. You're not going to agree with me on this and you're probably going to hate me for it. But if you're burning up a CVS, if you're burning up a local store, if you're setting fire to anything, if you're destroying any property that isn't yours, you're a vandal. You're a rioter. You're inciting violence. And it ain't right. Are you a thug? I don't know. Let's look up the definition of thug. If I can give y'all a moment. I just look up thong. That's not what I want. Thug. I can spell English. Thug. Noun. A cruel or vicious ruffian, robber or murderer. Second definition. One of a former group of professional robbers or murderers in India who strangled their victims. That's what a thug is. I just look up dictionary.com. Let's just Google the word thug. Let's look at Merriam-Webster, the most highly relatable dictionary in the world because everyone uses it. Thug. Definition of thug. Noun. A violent criminal. Okay. So we understand the term that we're using. A brutal ruffian or assassin. Synonyms: gangster, tough. Thuggery. Noun. Thuggish. Adjective. So that we got that clear, that's what a thug is. So, by definition, by actual Webster and Dictionary.com definition, if you're committing any sort of violence whatsoever, you are, in fact, a thug. Sorry, I don't mean to offend. Oh, wait, I do. Here's the thing. Any sort of violence you cause is being a thug. Sorry. You can't relate that to being the N-word. I'm sorry. If you're a white person, you did the same thing, I would call you a thug. If you're a Mexican doing the same thing that's happening right now or happened in the past few days, I would call you a thug. If you're an Asian or from Pakistan, or if you're from any other European country, or if you're from Russia or wherever, I don't care where you're from. I don't care where your heritage lies. I don't care your family lineage. I don't care about any of that. If your actions are of a violent criminal or of a brutal ruffian or assassin, then you are, in fact, by definition, a thug. Sorry, you don't get a pass on that one. Being a thug does not equate to the N word. no matter how much you want it to. Now, some people will say that the N-word and thug are about the same thing. No, here's the thing. I'm going to sympathize with the protesters before I sympathize with anyone burning up, blowing up stuff over in Baltimore, or the same thing happened in or North Charleston if it happened, or whatever happened in Ferguson or any other thing. And if you're a protester, you're peacefully protesting, if you're just, chanting words, fine, go for it. The great thing about protesting is that it shows that you have a problem with something and you're standing there expressing it. Words help. Words are what become actions, positive actions, where people in the federal levels can actually see that you want change to be made. The problem is you're getting in that mix with the thugs. Yeah, I said it again. With the thugs that are causing so much violence. Somehow you need to separate yourselves from them. Now, is it wrong for the media to just cover the protests and things of that nature? Kind of, yes. I would expect that the media, the journalists who earn their degrees, would actually go out and find better images of what's actually going on in the cities of unrest. If Baltimore is as bad as people are saying that it is, cover that. Tell us how you really feel. Tell us the true story behind Baltimore. If the same thing is happening in Ferguson, tell us the real story behind that. Get your journalists out there and find the real story. So, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, even. There are people out there that say you're not covering every aspect of what's going on in that city. More than likely, they would like you to cover more than this, the aspect of all the looting and the violence and all of that stuff. And for those of you who don't think that there isn't any racial tension whatsoever, there's no racism whatsoever, you're lying. There is a bit of racism, just a little bit, at least in any case that you can think of. And that's where it boils down to. Does racism exist in America? Does it exist to the extent of what's happening with these cases that you see popping up here? Yes. Think about it. When the federal government investigated the city of Ferguson, what did they find out? More and more arrests were happening towards the black man or the black woman. Let's not leave the black woman out there because black women can cause crimes too. By the way, so yeah, f that factor. Um, but the Department of Justice went through their investigation and found out that officers were in fact arresting more people, citing more people, all that stuff, issuing more issuing more violations to those of African American descent. And so they had the right they had the right to feel angry about that. And that right there shows that racism does in fact exist. So dismissing that is stupid. Was there racism directly involved when Darren Wilson shot Michael Brown? Was there racism involved when Eric Gardner was put into a chokehold or whatever you want to call it? Was there racism done when that one police officer, got the name of the person that got killed. Was the situation in North Charleston, South Carolina, caused by racism? Was the situation with Freddie Gray caused by racism? Maybe. You can't rule that out, though. You can't. I'm sorry, but you can't. There is, and I can be on the defense of this. There is a certain amount of racism between cops and police. It's not always prevalent. It's not always there shining a light so you can see it perfectly, but it's there. I know. I've been a victim of racism before. Hell, I was playing Ingress. For those of you who've never played Ingress, it's a location-based game. This game is based on going to different places. I'll actually tell you what happened. Had an interaction with a cop. And I was playing Ingress over in downtown Bryan. And when I was playing, I went up to the end towards where MLK is. Usually a black type of neighborhood. No offense, that's just how it is. So I went up there and then I made a U-turn. Legal U-turn, by the way. And I went back up the street and I turned left on the 24th Street. If you're familiar with Bryan College Station, I went up 24th Street, made it to Texas Avenue. Noticed that there was a cop there, crossed across Texas Avenue, and pulled over into the Dairy Queen after the cops turned on their lights. And so they wanted to search my car to make sure I didn't have drugs because it's a very high drug area. Do I think it was racist? Possibly, but I see their point. Does that mean that black people deal drugs all the time? No, because let's be honest, there are a lot of Mexicans in that same neighborhood that the police noticed where I was, by the way. So I wasn't really being racist. Uh, so we have to understand that if we're going to get anywhere, if we're going to get anywhere in this life, in this country, and evolve away from racism enough to where it doesn't show up a lot, then we need to talk. Violence solves nothing. Talking makes a difference. It does. Talking allows us to make a difference. Talking is allowing the Supreme Court to actually rule on whether or not gays and lesbians can be equal in the terms of marriage as any straight couple can be. Talking is allowing marijuana to be legal in many states. Talking is addressing the situation with the education system in the United States. Let's face it, we're dumbasses compared to a lot of countries. Talking actually gets us somewhere. You can't say it doesn't because it has. Talking can lead to positive actions, can lead to things that need to be addressed, that need to be taken care of, and no, they're not going to come overnight. Of course not. You can't expect something like that to come overnight. What we can do is sit at our local city council meetings, no matter how boring they are. We can address issues in our own cities, maybe looking into our city budgets and getting body cams for the police officers so that there's more evidence, so that there's video evidence, because video does not lie, where the truth can be shown on the shoulder of an officer. And technology is furthering the advancement of these cameras and things of this nature, so that batteries can last all day. It's possible. You can't tell me it isn't, because it is. So with that in mind, and I'm sorry I went on a complete rant. Actually, I'm not sorry I went on a complete rant, because it needed to happen. What we need to understand is everyone is at fault about the entire situation that's happening in Baltimore. The thugs, and I'll say it again, thugs are the ones that are causing the unrest, the chaos, the violence, the burning and looting of places and things of that nature. Those are the ones that are destroying property. Those thugs are causing an intimidating factor in that city. That's why there was a baseball game with no audience, because they were afraid that there could have been violence ensued within the stadium that could have caused catastrophe, and we'd rather not have that. Now, would we? It's the media's fault for not actually covering what's really going on in Baltimore. Yes, there's more than just what you see on the grounds of the big streets and the biggest parts of the city. You need to go under the back streets. You need to go on the country roads. You need to go on the undiscovered territories that most media wouldn't actually go into. That needs to happen in order to tell the real story about what's going on in that city, in other cities, and across the country, and even around the world. That's the job of a journalist. A journalist captures every aspect of a story. A journalist goes in, at least should, go in and find out what's really going on. Does that mean you have to do a little extra work? Absolutely. But it brings out so much more into the light. People's stories can be told, and a lot of times they need to be told. If journalists, and I can count myself as one of those, if we as journalists don't go out and cover the real part of the story, the actual how is this, what led to this, what is leading to all these actions, if we don't cover every aspect of it, we're not going to get anywhere. We're just going to stick to the main points and not do a little bit of a background. You got to have the background. I'm sorry, but that means a little bit more work. It means that you need to talk to the people who live in that city, who are feeling the effects of the injustice. They're tired of the media just sitting there and covering the riots and not covering the 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 society that is causing said riots, said injustice. You got to do it. Get internal with the police department. Look through their records. See what's actually happening. There may be a pattern that's going on that just hit the light of day when Freddie Gray was arrested and mysteriously died. In other words, everyone has a duty to to uphold. And if we can uphold said duty, if we can make talks, change can happen. Positive change can happen. So that's my feeling on it. And I want to know your feeling on it. I'm putting this on YouTube. It's on Twitch right now, but I'm going to put this on YouTube. I want your opinion on it. Leave a message in the comments when you see this video. If you're watching me, you've seen this via Facebook, send me a message on Facebook. Tell me how you feel. The word needs to get out. And if it means me sitting here and saying what I really feel and what really needs